big story breaking right now. The first visuals emerging out of Ukraine's town of Borodyanka. Remember, this is one of the suburbs of the capital, Kyiv. And with these visuals that are now emerging from bombed out Borodyanka, this appears to be a city that has faced some of the worst attacks since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. These drone shots really showing the extent of the devastation. There's been massive bombardment. This is, as we said, to the northwest of Kyiv. There could be hundreds of people still buried under the rubble of civilian apartment blocks that have been destroyed in Russian shelling. Now, as you can see, sort of kilometers of buildings which clearly appear to have faced the worst of Russian shelling. This is a city that's literally been bombed off the face of the earth. The destruction in the center of Borodyanka is reportedly some of the worst in any of the towns around Kyiv, whether it's Irpin or Bucha, where already all headlines have talked about the extent of brutality and war crimes, possible war crimes that have happened in Bucha. And now Vishnu Shom joining us with the latest on that. Vishnu, as we see these visuals, are there fears, in fact, that Borodyanka, in fact, could be even worse than Bucha?
No, we don't know that as yet. What we do know is that the city has been very badly devastated. The town has been very badly devastated. And that there are real concerns that a lot of people who have been killed over here have actually are buried in the rubble. And it's a matter of time now before you get a full idea of the human casualties in this area. At this stage, no evidence of, executions and torture and what has been reported and seen in the town of Bucha. But let me tell you a little bit about Borodyanka. This is a town where the Russians faced massive setbacks to their military campaign as they proceeded towards the Kyiv region. Several of their frontline armored units and infantry units were interrogated over here by Ukrainian forces, were taken on, engaged by Ukrainian forces and ambushed as well. And the losses which they sustained here in this particular town were some of their worst losses in the earlier period of the war. So this is where it all really happened. And, as a counter and as a effort to try and strengthen their position in the area, they bombarded Borodyanka. They destroyed large parts of it, as the footage actually indicates. But now, in the last 72 plus hours or so, the Russians have completely left this particular area. And what is happening is that the international media and, of course, the Ukrainian media are now able to gain first-hand information of the extent of the devastation on the ground.
Right. There are indications, Vishnu, at this point that presidential spokespersons in Ukraine are already sort of speaking out about the extent of damage, of possible war crimes. This, of course, might be dismissed by Russia as Ukrainian propaganda. But would you say from these visuals that we are seeing that there's certainly been extensive bombardment and that those fears of sort of citizens and civilians being buried under rubble is a very serious one?
Ankita, this town has been essentially destroyed. This township has been destroyed. Whatever few buildings are remaining are the exception, not the rule. And as I mentioned, there were huge battles over here. But again, when we get into whether there were war crimes, when we get into a true idea of the casualties, we don't know that as yet. And, yes, as this war progresses, and this is something which Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, actually spoke about, is that there are areas of Ukraine which are under Russian control, which are progressively being liberated, or where the Russians continue to be very strong, where there is absolutely no idea at this juncture of just how bad it is. So Borodyanka is certainly an area where we will know. And essentially, as you get an idea of the damage in that particular area, one should also report that the area further north, which is the big city of Chernihiv, and then to the east is the city of Sumy, where a lot of Indian students were trapped. We will also progressively get an idea of the extent of damage in these areas. Chernihiv and Sumy, of course, Ukrainian soldiers were fighting heavily, but Russian forces have more or less moved away from certainly Chernihiv and also Sumy. They're moving away from that area. And I think you'll get a better idea. So the next couple of days is going to be very crucial as we get an idea of the true extent of the damage in the north and the east of Ukraine.
All right, Vishnu. Thanks very much indeed for getting us those latest details.